All right, so this deep dive is all about like finding those shortcuts to like understanding and speaking English. You've given us quite a mix of sources, basic phrases, ASL, even idioms. It
Yeah.
sounds like you want to like hit the ground running.
Absolutely. And it's a smart approach. Even a few well-chosen phrases can boost your confidence in, real life situations.
I started with Kendra's video, the one with 1,000 basic English phrases. Honestly, I was a bit overwhelmed at first.
Right.
A lot of information. But then I noticed like a pattern.
It's all that repetition, right? Hearing those phrases over and over helps them stick. Think of it like learning a song. The more you hear it, the easier it is to sing along.
Exactly. It's like she's drilling those essential phrases right into your brain. And they're not just random words either. They're things you'd actually use.
Right.
Like, where can I find a taxi? Or can you help me with my luggage?
That's the key, isn't it? Practicality. You're learning phrases that you can put to use immediately, which makes the whole process much more rewarding.
Totally. And some of the phrases were genuinely funny. Like, my stomach is growling. It's like, yeah, we've all been there. It's amazing how humor can make learning so much more enjoyable.
Remember, the more you enjoy the process, the more likely you are to stick with it. It's not about becoming a grammar expert overnight. It's about finding ways to make language learning fun and engaging.
Speaking of engaging, the video on basic ASL phrases from Take Lessons really caught my eye.
Hmm.
It's such a different way to communicate, so visual and expressive.
Learning even a few basic signs can open up a whole new world of communication. It's about connecting with people on a different level. And let's be honest, knowing how to sign "where is the bathroom"
Oh, yeah.
could be a lifesaver.
Oh, absolutely. Plus, I love how the video emphasizes that you don't need to be fluent to start using ASL. They give you the tools for those simple interactions like greetings, basic questions, even asking for help.
And that tip about asking how to sign unknown words is brilliant. It empowers you to keep learning and expanding your vocabulary.
Totally. And now let's switch gears and talk about idioms. The Speak English with Vanessa video is full of them. Those colorful, sometimes quirky expressions that native speakers use all the time.
Idioms are fascinating because they offer a glimpse into the culture and humor of native speakers. They go beyond the literal meaning of words to convey a feeling or an idea.
Right, like, you rock, which means you're awesome. Or every cloud has a silver lining, which means even bad situations have something good in them. It's like a secret code to understanding the nuances of the language.
And sometimes the code is downright ironic. Take break a leg, for example. You've never actually wished someone broken bone, right?
Right.
But in the theater world, it's a way of saying, good luck.
I know, the irony is perfect, especially for a show called The Deep Dive. Speaking of things that can trip you up, Vanessa also talks about phrasal verbs in her video.
Yes. Phrasal verbs, they can be tricky, but they're absolutely essential for speaking English naturally. What's interesting about them is how one verb can take on completely different meanings, depending on the preposition you add to it.
Exactly. Like, look out means be careful, but look up means search for information. It's like each preposition is a key that unlocks a new meaning.
It's true. Fluency isn't just about memorizing grammar rules. It's about understanding how words combine and change meaning in everyday conversation.
And to wrap up this first part, we should mention the other videos you provided, Eco Languages and Lucy Max. They also focus on those practical everyday phrases, which reinforces what we've been talking about, building that strong foundation of English.
Exactly. It's like you're assembling a toolkit,
Yeah.
gathering all these phrases and expressions that you can use in different situations. And what's interesting is that we've seen a real range in these sources, from very basic phrases like "my father smokes" to much more colorful idioms like "don't spill the beans."
It's almost like two different levels of language, right? We have the foundational phrases on one hand, and then these more nuanced, almost playful expressions on the other. Do you think you need both to really master the language?
Well, think of it this way. Those basic phrases are like the foundation of a house.
Okay.
They're essential for conveying basic information and getting your point across. But the idioms and phrasal verbs are like the decorations. They add personality, style, and even a bit of humor to your language.
So you're saying you need both the sturdy structure and the artistic flair.
Exactly. The foundation gets you started, but it's the decorative elements that help you connect with native speakers on a deeper level. They allow you to understand jokes, cultural references, even those unspoken social cues that can be tricky to navigate.
That makes a lot of sense. It's not just about knowing the words, it's about understanding the context in which they're used.
Absolutely. And that applies to any language you're learning.
Hmm.
Language is a reflection of culture, so the more you immerse yourself in the cultural nuances, the more fluent you'll become.
It's like the difference between being able to read a basic instruction manual and truly appreciating a work of literature. Both require reading skills, but the level of understanding and enjoyment is completely different.
That's a great analogy, and it highlights the different levels of fluency. You might be able to have a basic conversation using those foundational phrases, but true fluency involves understanding and using those more subtle, expressive elements of the language.
So for someone who's looking for those shortcuts to fluency,
hmm
what's the best approach? Is there a magic formula?
Unfortunately, there are no magic formulas when it comes to language learning. Fluency takes time and effort, but you can definitely be strategic about your learning. Focus on those foundational phrases first, but don't shy away from exploring idioms and phrasal verbs early on.
It's about finding that balance between practicality and expressiveness.
Precisely. And don't underestimate the power of listening to native speakers. Pay attention to how they use language, the expressions they choose, the rhythm and intonation of their speech. You can absorb so much just by listening.
Like you're downloading the language directly into your brain. It reminds me of all those little details Vanessa pointed out in her videos, things like intonation, facial expressions, even hand gestures. They all play a role in communication.
Absolutely. Communication is so much more than just words. It's a combination of verbal and nonverbal cues that work together to convey meaning.
We also have those other sources that focused on basic phrases, eco-languages, and Lucy Max.
Hmm.
Do you think those resources are valuable, even if they're not diving into idioms and phrasal verbs?
They definitely are. Think of it like this. Those basic phrases are the building blocks of language. The more building blocks you have, the more complex and nuanced structures you can create.
So it's about having a diverse toolkit,
Yeah.
right? Different resources for different purposes.
Exactly. And that brings up another important point. There's no one-size-fits-all approach to language learning. Some people thrive on structured grammar lessons, while others prefer a more immersive experience. The key is to find what works best for you.
I'm definitely someone who learns best by actually using the language.
Mm.
But I also appreciate having that solid foundation of grammar to fall back on. It gives me confidence.
And that's a great combination, having both the confidence and the flexibility to navigate different communication situations.
I feel like we've covered so much ground already. It's not just about memorizing phrases. It's about understanding the culture, the different levels of fluency, and finding your own learning style. What stands out to you as the most important takeaway so far?
I think the most important takeaway is that language learning is a journey, not a destination. There's always more to learn, more to explore, more ways to express yourself.
That's such a great point. It's
Yeah.
not about perfection. It's about embracing the process and enjoying the ride. And it's about like making the language your own, wouldn't you say? Not just reciting phrases from a textbook, but using them to express, your unique personality.
That's exactly it. And that's where those idioms and phrasal verbs can really shine. Instead of just saying, I'm happy, you can say, I'm over the moon. Or instead of, that's a bad idea, you might say, that's a recipe for disaster.
It's like adding spices to a dish. They burn out the flavor and make it more interesting.
What a great analogy. Language is meant to be played with, to be used creatively. It shouldn't feel dry or robotic.
So for you listening, think back to everything we've discussed today. We've gone from basic phrases to ASL, from the world of idioms to those tricky phrasal verbs. It's been quite a journey.
It has, and it highlights that fluency isn't a finish line, it's an ongoing process. But what's encouraging is that even a few well-chosen phrases can make a huge difference in how you communicate and connect with others.
And sometimes the most effective communication isn't about perfect grammar. It's about expressing yourself in a way that resonates with others. That's where those idioms and phrasal verbs really come into play. They add color and personality to your language.
Here's a thought to leave you with. Imagine yourself in a situation where you could use one of these phrases. How would you adapt it to fit your own personality and style? Because ultimately, that's what makes language learning truly rewarding, making it your own and using it to connect with the world around you.